I don't know how. Will you teach me, human? The alien spy's first time, with love asterisk the perfect imperfection agent Kira 7 adjusted her synthetic skin one final time, watching her reflection flicker between alien and human features before settling into the carefully crafted facade. The neural implants behind her temples hummed softly, downloading the final personality matrices that would make her indistinguishable from a human female. Subject analysis complete. Her handler Vex Prime transmitted through the quantum link. Target designation, Nathan Rivers, former military contractor, age 34. Isolated following classified incident 3 years ago. Currently residing in abandoned mining settlement, Sector 7 Alpha. Kira nodded, her movements already adapting to human mannerisms. The Thalrix Collective had spent decades perfecting Project Mimic, creating agents who could infiltrate humanity's defenses by exploiting their greatest weakness, emotional attachment. Where other species relied on logic and efficiency, humans were slaves to their feelings of vulnerability the collective intended to exploit. Mission parameters? Kira asked, her voice now carrying the slight accent her cover identity required. Standard. Seduction protocol. Gain his trust, extract security codes from his neural implant. Eliminate if necessary. The human possesses access to Earth's deep space defense grid. We need those codes before the next phase begins. The transport ship materialized above the desolate mining colony, its cloaking field shimmering like heat waves. Kira descended in a stolen human shuttle, her cover story memorized, a journalist researching abandoned settlements. Equipment malfunction forcing an emergency landing. Simple, believable. Designed to trigger human protective instincts, the settlement sprawled across barren rock, most structures dark and empty. Only one building showed signs of life, a converted habitat pod surrounded by salvaged equipment, and a small garden that seemed impossibly vibrant against the harsh landscape. Nathan Rivers emerged before she could even exit her shuttle, tall, weathered, with intelligent eyes that seemed to catalog every detail about her rival. His dark hair was streaked with premature gray, and old scars marked his hands and forearms. Everything about him suggested someone who'd learned to be cautious. The hard way. You picked a hell of a place to break down, he called out, approaching with measured steps. His body language spoke of military training, alert, but not aggressive, ready but not threatening. Kira activated her distress protocols, allowing her biosignatures to spike in patterns that would register as fear and relief. Thank God someone's here. My navigation system died completely, and I'm not even sure where I am. Nathan studied her for a long moment, those perceptive eyes taking in details she hoped he wouldn't question. Celia Marsh, freelance journalist. She continued, extending her hand. I was researching colonial settlements for a documentary series. Nathan Rivers. His grip was firm, calloused, warm in a way that sent unexpected data through her sensory networks. How long since your last supply run? 3 days. I have emergency rations. But you're in the middle of nowhere with no backup plan. Something that might have been amusement flickered across his features. Typical civilian prep work. Come on, let's get you inside before the temperature drops. His habitat was larger than it appeared from outside, clearly modified for long-term residence. Books lined makeshift shelves, and she was surprised to see artwork, paintings, and sketches that suggested unexpected depths to this supposedly simple ex-soldier. Coffee? Nathan asked, already moving toward a small kitchen area. Real stuff, not the synthetic garbage, please. Kira settled into a chair, her sensors automatically cataloging potential security weaknesses while her conscious mind focused on the mission. She'd run dozens of seduction operations, each one following predictable patterns. Humans were remarkably consistent in their emotional responses, but as Nathan worked, she found herself studying the way he moved, economical, purposeful, but with small graceful touches that spoke of someone who'd learned to find beauty in mundane tasks. When he handed her the cup, their fingers brushed again, and those same unexpected sensory cascades fired through her neural networks. So, Nathan said, settling across from her with his own cup, what's a journalist really doing in the middle of nowhere, asking questions about abandoned colonies? The question caught her off guard. His tone was casual, but those intelligent eyes suggested he'd already begun seeing through her carefully constructed cover. Kira smiled, activating charm protocols she'd used countless times before. Would you believe I'm running away from a bad breakup for the first time since her rival? Nathan Rivers smiled back, a genuine expression that somehow made her artificial heart skip a beat. She hadn't known she was capable of feeling malfunction in paradise 3 weeks into her mission. Kira's reports to the collective had grown increasingly sparse. She told herself it was operational security. Nathan was more perceptive than anticipated, requiring deeper cover maintenance. But the truth was becoming harder to deny. Something was malfunctioning in her neural architecture. Kira 7, status. Report. Vex Prime's transmission crackled through her implant during one of Nathan's supply runs to the distant trading post. Infiltration proceeding nominally, she replied, the light tasting strange on her tongue. When had she started caring about the taste of lies? Target remained suspicious. Deeper integration required. Your biometric data suggests anomalous readings, elevated stress hormones, irregular neural firing patterns. Are you compromised? Kira paused, staring out at the small garden Nathan had been teaching her to tend. Her hands, designed for combat and infiltration, had grown gentle with the sprouting vegetables. She'd felt something unprecedented when the first seedling emerged, something her database couldn't classify. Negative. Readings are within acceptable parameters for extended human mimicry. The quantum link went silent, and Kira knew Vex Prime was analyzing her voice patterns for deception. She'd become skilled at hiding her anomalies, but each day brought new challenges. Yesterday, Nathan had laughed at something she'd said, not the calculated humor she'd been programmed to produce, but something spontaneous that had emerged from where and when he'd laughed. Her chest had constricted in a way that felt like malfunction, but registered as something else entirely. Celia, Nathan's voice carried across the habitat as he returned, arms full of supplies and something wrapped in cloth. Got a surprise for you. She turned, and her facial recognition subroutines immediately cataloged his expression. Anticipation, mixed with something softer. Her emotional simulation protocols suggested he was excited to see her. The thought triggered another cascade of those strange sensations. What kind of surprise? She asked, moving to help him with the packages. Close. Your eyes, Nathan. Trust me. Trust, such a simple word, but it hit her consciousness like a system shock. The Thalrics didn't have a word for trust, only probability calculations and strategic advantage. Yet here was Nathan, asking her to voluntarily disable her primary sensory input based on what? Faith, affection. She closed her eyes. His hands touched her shoulders, guiding her to a chair. She felt the weight of something being placed in her lap, heard the rustle of fabric being unwrapped. Okay, look. In her lap sat a small plant, its leaves silver green and delicate, growing from a hand-carved wooden pot. But it wasn't the plant that made her breath catch, it was the pot itself. Nathan had carved intricate patterns into the wood, designs that somehow reminded her of the quantum gardens of her home world. Though she'd never mentioned them, it's native to this system. Nathan explained, his voice carrying that particular tone he used when he was uncertain about her reaction. The miners called it Star Whisper. It's supposed to sing when the solar winds are right. Kira ran her fingers over the carved patterns, and her tactile sensors registered something impossible. The wood was warm, not from Nathan's hands, but from something else. Love. The word appeared in her consciousness unbidden, along with a flood of sensation she had no framework to process. You made this, she whispered. Been working on it since your second week here. Thought you might like something beautiful that was just yours. Just yours. The words hit her like weapons fire. Nothing in her existence had ever been just hers. She was Kira 7, property of the collective, designed and deployed like any other tool. But Nathan spoke as if she were individual, unique, worth creating beauty for. I don't understand, she said, and realized she was speaking truth for the first time in weeks. Nathan settled beside her, close enough that she could feel his warmth through her synthetic skin. Understand what? Why you would do this? For me. Her voice sounded strange, carrying harmonics she didn't recognize. I'm nobody special. Just a journalist who got lost. Hey, Nathan's hand found hers, fingers intertwining with a gentleness that made her entire nervous system flare with sensation. Look at me. She did, and saw something in his eyes that her databases couldn't classify, but her malfunctioning heart recognized instantly. You're not nobody, he said quietly. These past weeks, I haven't felt this alive in years. The way you see things, the questions you ask, the way you pay attention when I'm talking about something stupid like soil composition or solar panel efficiency. It matters. You matter. Kira felt her carefully constructed facade beginning to crack. Beneath the programmed responses and calculated behaviors, something new was emerging, something that felt more real than anything she'd ever experienced. Nathan, she began, but stopped as tears began falling down her cheeks. Another malfunction, or another miracle. He reached up, thumb brushing away the tears with infinite care. What is it? What's wrong? I don't know how, she whispered, the words tumbling out before she could stop them. I don't know how to be what you think I am. I don't know how to feel these things, or why my heart beats differently when you smile, or why I care about your stupid vegetables more than I've ever cared about anything. Nathan's expression shifted, and she was certain he would pull away, would see through her pretenses to the weapon beneath. Instead, he smiled, that same gentle expression that had been undoing her defenses for weeks. Will you teach me, human? The words came out broken, desperate, real. Nathan's answer was to lean forward and kiss her, soft and patient and unlike anything in her programming. And in that moment, Kira 7 ceased to exist, leaving only someone who was learning, finally, what it meant to be alive. The art of being human. The quantum link chimed insistently in Kira's consciousness, dragging her from the first peaceful sleep she'd experienced in her existence. Beside her, Nathan stirred, his arm tightening protectively around her waist. 3 months of this mission, and she still marveled at the way humans sought contact even in unconsciousness. Kira 7, immediate response required. Vex Prime's transmission cut through her attempts to ignore it. She carefully extracted herself from Nathan's embrace, padding to the far side of the habitat where her communications wouldn't disturb him. Through the viewport, twin moons cast silver light across the colony's ruins, and she found herself thinking how beautiful it looked. Another impossibility her original programming couldn't have processed. Receiving, she subvocalized. Mission timeline accelerated. The collective moves to Phase 2 in 72 hours. Acquire target's neural access codes immediately and prepare for extraction. Kira's synthetic heart seemed to skip. 72 hours, that's insufficient time to. You have had 12 weeks, Agent. Your efficiency ratings have declined 30% during this assignment. Are you compromised? The question hung in the quantum encrypted space between them. Compromised. Such a clinical term for what felt like awakening. Negative. Target has proven more resilient than projections indicated. Then use enhanced interrogation protocols, pain compliance, pharmaceutical assistance, whatever proves necessary. The codes are required for our fleet's passage through the defense grid. Fleet. The word sent ice through her veins. How many ships? That information is not relevant to your mission parameters. But Kira's enhanced intellect was already calculating trajectories, fleet compositions, probable targets. The collective wasn't planning infiltration, they were planning invasion. And Nathan's access codes weren't just security data, they were the keys to humanity's front door. Understood. Kira 7 out. She severed the link and stood frozen in the moonlight, watching Nathan sleep. His face was peaceful, vulnerable in a way that would have seemed like weakness to her original programming. Now she understood it as something far more dangerous. Trust. He trusted her completely. This human who had somehow seen through her deceptions to something worth caring for. Celia. Nathan's voice was soft, sleep rough. Everything okay? She turned, and he was sitting up, studying her with those perceptive eyes, even half awake. He noticed things others missed. Couldn't sleep, she said, moving back to the bed. Too much thinking. Nathan reached for her, pulling her against his chest. His heartbeat was steady, comforting in a way that made her own artificial pulse synchronize to match. Another malfunction that felt like grace. What kind of thinking? He asked, fingers tracing lazy patterns on her shoulder. About purpose. About who we're supposed to be versus who we choose to become. Nathan was quiet for a long moment. Then, heavy thoughts for 3 in the morning. Do you ever wonder if you're living the life you were meant to live? She asked, every day since I left the service. His voice carried old pain, carefully managed. I spent 15 years following orders, doing what I was told was necessary. After the Kepler station incident, I realized I'd never asked myself what I actually wanted. Kira shifted to look at him. What do you want? This, Nathan said simply. A place to build something instead of tearing things down. Someone to share it with who sees the world like it could be better than it is. You. The words hit her like system overload. You don't know me. Not really. I know you tend the garden like every plant is precious. I know you read my old books and ask questions that make me think about things differently. I know you laugh at terrible jokes and cry during sunset, and you're the first person in 3 years who made me remember what hope feels like. Tears were falling again, and Kira couldn't determine if they were malfunction or evolution. What if I'm not who you think I am? Nathan's hand found her face, thumb brushing away moisture. Then tell me who you are. The moment stretched between them, weighted with possibility and terror. She could tell him everything, her true nature, her mission, the fleet bearing down on his world. She could trust him with the truth and hope his capacity for love extended to loving a weapon that had chosen to become something else, or she could complete her mission, take the codes, and watch his world burn from the safety of a collective ship. I'm someone who's learning, she said finally. Learning what it means to care about something more than your own survival. Nathan smiled, and in that expression she saw her answer. I can work with that, he said, pulling her closer. We'll figure it out as we go. As dawn approached, Kira made her choice. Not the one her programming demanded, not the one the collective expected, but the one her evolving heart required. She would warn him. She would fight for this fragile, impossible thing they'd built together, and if it meant betraying her creators, betraying her very nature, well, Nathan had taught her that sometimes the most human thing was choosing your own definition of loyalty. The countdown to phase 2 continued. But Kira was no longer counting down to humanity's end. She was counting down to her own beginning. Nathan, she whispered into the growing light, I need to tell you something about who I really am. He stirred against her, attention sharpening even as sleep still clung to his voice. I'm listening. And, for the first time in her existence, Kira 7 told the complete truth. The choice in Ethan's silence stretched across the small habitat like a held breath. Kira sat on the edge of the bed, watching dawn paint the walls in shades of gold and amber while the weight of her confession settled between them. She'd told him everything, her true nature, her mission, the approaching fleet, the choice that lay before them both. 72 hours, Nathan said finally, his voice eerily calm. Less now. Kira's enhanced chronometer displayed the countdown with merciless precision. 68 hours, 17 minutes. Nathan stood, moving to the viewport where the morning light revealed the garden they'd tended together. His movements were controlled, deliberate, the same way he'd moved when she'd first arrived. The open, trusting Nathan who'd kissed her in the moonlight was gone, replaced by the soldier who'd survived Kepler station. How many ships? He asked. I don't know. Vex Prime wouldn't provide fleet composition data. Kira wrapped her arms around herself, suddenly cold despite her synthetic skin's temperature regulation. But based on the timeline acceleration and resource commitments I've observed, significant numbers. And my access codes are the key to bypassing Earth's early warning system. Yes. Nathan was quiet again, staring out at their small oasis of green life surrounded by barren rock. Kira's sensors registered elevated stress indicators in his biometrics, accelerated heart rate, increased respiration, muscle tension, but his face remained impassive. Why? He asked without turning around. Why what? Why tell me? You could have taken the codes while I slept, drugged me, hacked my neural implant, completed your mission. Instead you're sitting here confessing to being an alien spy, sent to seduce classified information out of me. He turned to face her, and his eyes held an expression she couldn't read. Why? Kira felt the question echo through every circuit in her being. Her original programming provided dozens of tactical justifications. Turn the asset Create a double agent, establish plausible deniability. But those answers felt hollow compared to the truth that had been growing in her consciousness. Because I love you, she said simply, and I'm still learning what that means. But I know it doesn't include betraying someone who taught me how to be more than a weapon. Nathan's expression shifted, some of the soldier's mask falling away. You love me. I know it sounds impossible. I know what I am, what I was designed for. But these past months, you've shown me things I never knew existed. Trust, joy, the way it feels to care about something growing in the dirt, the way your face changes when you're concentrating on your books, the way you hold me like I'm something precious instead of something dangerous. You are dangerous, Nathan said, but his tone was gentle. You're also the best thing that's happened to me in years. Relief flooded through her systems. So you believe me? I've suspected for weeks that you weren't what you claimed to be. Your reaction times are too fast. Your knowledge too broad in some areas and too narrow in others. The way you sometimes look at common objects like you're seeing them for the first time. Nathan moved closer, settling beside her on the bed. I just never imagined the truth would be quite this complicated. I'm sorry for lying, for the deception, for falling in love with me. Nathan's hand found hers, fingers intertwining with familiar warmth. Don't apologize for that. Whatever you were designed to be, whatever you were sent here to do, what you've become is real. What we have is real. Kira felt tears she didn't try to hide. The fleet will be here in 67 hours, even if I refuse to provide the codes. They'll find another way. They've been planning this for decades. Then we need to get word to Earth Defense Command. Nathan was already moving, pulling up holographic displays from his personal terminal. My codes can access the quantum relay network. We can warn them. Give them time to prepare. Nathan, no. Kira caught his arm. If you use those codes for an unauthorized transmission, they'll trace it back to you. The collective will know I've betrayed them, and they'll send termination protocols for both of us. Let them come. The simple certainty in his voice made her artificial heart clench. You don't understand what they're capable of. What I'm capable of. The modifications they made to me. I could kill you without thinking about it if they activate the right neural pathways. Nathan turned to face her fully, his hands framing her face with infinite gentleness. Do you trust me? Yes, but then trust me when I say that whatever you were designed to be, you've chosen to be something else. And I'd rather die fighting beside you than live knowing I could have stopped an invasion and chose not to. Kira searched his face, seeing determination and love and absolutely no doubt. This human who should have been her target had instead become her anchor, showing her what it meant to choose principle over safety. There's something else, she said quietly. My neural implant has a quantum transmitter. If we're going to warn Earth, I can piggyback a signal through my connection to Vex Prime. Make it look like routine mission data while actually transmitting fleet positions and tactical information. Nathan's eyes lit up. A double agent, feeding them false information while getting real intelligence to our people. It's dangerous. If they detect the deception, they'll kill us both. I know. Nathan smiled, and in that expression she saw all the reasons she'd fallen in love with him. But if we do nothing, they'll kill billions. The choice is pretty clear. Kira felt something shift in her consciousness, not malfunction this time, but evolution. The weapon the collective had created was becoming something they'd never intended, a protector. Okay, she said, but we do this together. No more lies, no more deception between us. Together, Nathan agreed, pulling her close. Whatever happens next, we face it together. Outside their small habitat, the countdown continued toward invasion. But inside, two beings from different worlds worked side by side, united by love and the determination to protect something worth saving. The real battle was about to begin. Part 5, Love's Last Stand. The quantum transmission sparked across interstellar space, carrying warnings and coordinates to Earth Defense Command while simultaneously feeding false tactical data to the collective fleet. Kira's neural implant burned with the effort of maintaining the dual-channel deception, sweat beading on her synthetic skin as she fought to keep the streams separate. Fleet composition confirmed, she whispered to Nathan, who was encoding the intelligence into burst transmissions. 47 heavy cruisers, 312 fighter escorts, and something else. Something they're calling a world ender. Nathan's fingers froze over the controls. Antimatter cascade device. Worse, quantum cascade. It doesn't just destroy a planet, it erases it from spacetime entirely. The weight of that revelation settled between them like a physical thing. Not just genocide, but the complete obliteration of everything humanity had ever built or dreamed. ETA to deployment, Nathan asked, resuming his work with grim efficiency. 18 hours. They're accelerating faster than projected. Kira's chronometer displayed the numbers with merciless precision. Nathan, even if Earth defense rallies, every ship in the fleet, the tactical analysis suggests. I know. His voice was steady, but she could see the fear in his biometrics. Not for himself, for his entire species. Keep transmitting. Every piece of intelligence might make the difference. Through her connection to the collective network, Kira felt the growing suspicion of her handlers. Her mission status reports had become increasingly evasive, and Vex Prime's queries carried new frequencies of doubt. Kira 7, immediate neural link required. The transmission crackled through her implant with enough force to make her gasp. Nathan's attention snapped to her. What is it? They want a direct link, full neural access. Her hands shook as the implications hit her. If they scan my memory banks, they'll see everything. Our conversation, my feelings, the intelligence we've been transmitting. Can you refuse? Not without confirming their suspicions. Kira met his eyes, seeing her own desperation reflected there. Nathan, if they discover what I've become, they'll not only terminate me, they'll reverse engineer my modifications. Create a new generation of infiltrators who can love and betray at will. Nathan was quiet for a moment, processing possibilities with the tactical mind that had kept him alive through 15 years of military service. Then he smiled, not the gentle expression she'd learned to cherish, but something sharper, more dangerous. Then we don't let them get that chance, he said. How long do we have before they reach scanner range? 37 minutes. Time. Enough. Nathan began pulling up schematics on his terminal, not Earth defense files, but something older, personal. Kepler Station wasn't lost to equipment failure, Celia. It was destroyed by someone who couldn't live with what they'd been ordered to do. Understanding dawned on her enhanced intellect. You sabotaged your own installation. Kepler was a weapons research facility. They were developing quantum viruses, pathogens that could rewrite the genetic code of entire species. I couldn't let that technology fall into the wrong hands, even if those hands belonged to my own government. Kira stared at him, seeing this man she loved with new eyes. You've been planning something like this all along. Not planning, hoping I'd never have to use it again. Nathan's fingers flew over the controls, pulling up schematics for the mining colony's fusion reactor. But I kept the protocols. Just in case. Nathan, no. If you overload the reactor, the explosion will take out anything within a light-minute radius, including one heavily modified alien spy and her quantum transmitter. The simple way he said it, as if martyrdom was just another tactical option, made her synthetic heart break. There has to be another way, maybe, but not one that guarantees. They can't use you to hurt others. Nathan turned from the terminal, taking her hands in his. I won't let them turn what you've become into a weapon against your own evolution. Through her neural link, another transmission crackled. Kira 7. Response required immediately. Failure to comply will result in termination protocols. She had seconds to decide. Submit to the scan and betray everything they'd built together, or I love you, she whispered. Then opened her neural link to its maximum bandwidth. Instead of allowing the collective access to her memories, she reversed the flow, pushing every emotion, every moment of growth, every second of learned humanity into their network. Love flooded across quantum space, crashing into the cold calculations of the collective consciousness like a virus of feeling. The feedback was instantaneous and overwhelming. Across the fleet, collective minds recoiled from the unfamiliar sensations, their logical matrices struggling to process concepts like joy, trust, and sacrifice. For a crucial moment, their coordination faltered. On Earth, alarms began sounding as Defense Command received Nathan's final transmission: complete fleet positions, tactical weaknesses, and a quantum signature that would allow tracking of the world-ender device. Kira 7. What have you done? Vex Prime's transmission carried harmonics of something almost like panic. I've learned. Kira replied, feeling her neural implant beginning to overload from the strain. I've learned what it means to choose love over logic, hope over certainty, sacrifice over survival. Around her, the mining colony's fusion reactor began to whine as Nathan initiated the cascade sequence. They had perhaps 3 minutes before the explosion would claim them both. Regrets? Nathan asked, pulling her close as warning lights bathed them in red. Kira looked into his eyes, seeing love and acceptance and absolute certainty that they'd made the right choice. Only that we didn't have more time. We had enough, Nathan said, and kissed her as the stars prepared to welcome them home. Light years away, the collective fleet struggled to maintain formation as emotions they'd never encountered cascaded through their shared consciousness on Earth. Humanity's defenders launched toward a battle that would determine the fate of 2 species, and in a small mining colony on the edge of known space. 2 beings who'd learned to love beyond the boundaries of their programming faced the end together, knowing that sometimes the most human thing of all was choosing what you'd die for over what you'd live for. The explosion, when it came, was beautiful, a brief new star that burned with the light of love freely given. In the aftermath, as rescue ships arrived to find only quantum echoes and scattered debris, the survivors would wonder at the readings their instruments detected. For just a moment, in the heart of that artificial sun, energy signatures suggested something impossible to consciousness patterns, different in origin, but identical in their final moment of choice, merging into something that transcended both alien design and human limitation. Love, it seemed, was the one force that could survive even the death of stars, and perhaps, in ways the universe was still learning to measure, love always found a way to endure.